Hi, I'm Tom Donahue, your host for a very special edition of Chamber Focus. You'll want to stay tuned because we have also a very special guest on the program today. Local fella many people will recognize from a very local family, also very recognizable. The Giancola family, and today on the program we have Joe Giancola. Joe, welcome to the program.
My pleasure to be here.
I think this might be your first time on Chamber Focus.
First chance to be here with you. First time.
So glad. And, well, we have such a variety of occasions as to why we wanted to have you on the show today. But first of all, along with your name today on the program and the graphics, we have author. So I wanted to mention, and one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you today is because you've authored a book called Howe book, and it's H-O-W-E, of course, to represent the Howe Center here. And as you told me sort of in the discussions prior to the show today, that this is also the 20th anniversary of this tremendous sort of mixed industrial use, mixed business use now, since you took it over and redeveloped the entire property, and you just did a fabulous job, and you've documented it in this book. And today we're going to talk a little bit about why you wrote that book and all the exciting things that have transpired in the last 20 years here at Howe Center, which is just an amazing process, and it's one that's a model, I think, not only for Rutland and the state of Vermont, but for the country.
Well, it's why I wrote the book is very interesting, because everybody said, you should tell your story, Joe, tell your story. So I don't have time to write a book. Well, it took 4 years to put this
You
together.
don't have time, by the way.
I don't have time.
You squeezed it in there.
Squeezed it in there. It took 4 years to put together, and I had Don Wickman help me write it, did all the research.
Yes. Good point.
I talked into microphones and tape players, and Peter Campbell Cobb and those fellows put all the stuff together, and I did the verbal, and they typed it, because I can't write very well, but I can talk very well. And back in '89 and '87, when we first put a deposit on the property, everybody says this was by Waterloo. What are you, crazy? He's crazy. This was a bombed-out city with rat-infested animals, and as it developed, people from the development community from the other parts of the country come here and would tell our mayor at that time was Jeff Winberg that you cannot do what he did. This is impossible. It doesn't work that way. You can't have industrial and offices and manufacturing and gymnastics schools and warehouses and making bread and making crackers and everything in one place.
Yeah.
I said it's just a microcomposite of the city of Rutland,
Yeah.
all in one place. It's the same as we have downtown in our whole city, and that's why I started it. And realizing that every city USA has problems with factories closing, vacant buildings, and I needed to tell people that there's hope and light at the end of the tunnel. You can resurrect your town, because Brandon came back after the house scale left there. So, and that's why that was a reason to show that you will come back. You can come back and you can do the impossible with your old abandoned mill-type buildings in your towns all over the United States of America.
Well, and in many respects, I was involved at the city council, board of aldermen back when we were trying to market the property, and there were really no takers until you came along. Most people didn't want to take on the challenge. Well,
interesting, in the book I talk about Jeff Winberg had your job as community development specialist prior to you taking it.
Right.
And at that time, he went to every developer in the country. The city had money and Aerojet to market the project.
Yes.
And when we told him, after he became mayor, we invited him, Paul Bimbo and I invited him to our office up there in the Opera House, and he came there, and we told him that we were the industrialists who had bought the property. He just sat there and didn't say nothing for about a minute, then he says, well, congratulations. I went to every developer in the country but the one in my own backyard.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was amazing. So I was kind of proud of that.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that's great for the audience watching the show today is we are going to show a DVD that you have created that really shows. I watched it, Joe, just recently, and I had forgotten just how bad this facility looked.
That's right.
And I got to tell you, Joe, I was in awe. And going back and seeing that, we're going to show it on the program in a couple of minutes, so that people can remember what this looked like and what it looks like today. You've really done the city a great favor, and this has become a major hub of employment. I think you have, I'm going to say, not knowing the answer, I'm going to ask you, but hundreds of people that work
There's
here.
about 300 people, 300 to 400 people that work here all the time. Then
That's
there's
amazing.
And there's other groups that come in when there's conferences. There's even up to 500, 800 people at times, depending on how big the conferences are.
Right. So we're going to get back to talking about this more, but just so people watching can get a feel for just what we're talking about, the transformation of the Howe Center, let's take a moment to go to the video and give people a look.
Okay.
The Howe Richardson plant was built in Rutland in 1877. At that time, the plant was considered a model of fireproof construction with up to 800 workers, making it the largest employer in Rutland. Howe operated 3 shifts round the clock, producing up to 4 million pounds of castings annually and shipping tens of millions of dollars worth of finished goods, making it the second largest industrial scale manufacturer in the world. Howe manufactured scales used for weighing everything from a single human hair to Boeing jumbo jets. Howe scales were sold throughout the world, and many Howe scales are still in use today. Unfortunately, as market conditions changed, the plant closed in 1982. Both the city of Rutland and Aerojet General, Howe Richardson's parent company, made many attempts to revive the abandoned plant. Several different uses were considered for the site. One, proposed by a New York developer, was to demolish the entire plant and construct a new mall. Another was as a location for the Viacom trash incinerator. Still, the site sat vacant for over 5 years, with its only tenants being a security guard and whatever wildlife that chose to make it their home. A final option being considered by Aerojet was to fence the entire property off and leave it unused. This was predicated on the discovery of hazardous waste on the property. In 1987, Joseph and Barbara Giancola contacted Aerojet's president and made an offer to purchase the property. Excited with the Giancola's plan to refurbish the decaying plant, Aerojet accepted their offer, but the sale was delayed because of the hazardous waste cleanup that had to begin. After 2 years of extensive groundwater monitoring and removal of environmentally hazardous materials, including many underground tanks, the Giancolas immediately began renovating the property into Howe Center, a home for industry, education, and business. Renovations at the site centered around reutilizing the existing buildings to their fullest potential while maintaining the historic character of the property. In one building, over 4,000 panes of glass were replaced to keep historic double-hung windows intact. Extensive repairs were made to existing slate roofs which had fallen into disrepair, and building exteriors were cleaned, repaired, and repainted to give the project a brighter look. As well as bringing the buildings up to code and making them handicapped accessible, many infrastructure improvements were made to accommodate the new variety of tenants. They included the construction of an efficient, state-of-the-art underground LP gas distribution system to replace the aged Bunker 6 oil-fired boilers on site. Overhead electric wires were removed and replaced with a new underground electric distribution network. In addition, new underground telecommunications and cable television services.
Welcome back to Chamber Focus. I hope you enjoyed that video of the Howe Center. We have the mastermind behind that, who is also, of course, very well known in the area for a number of different things, but one of them is being married to Barbara Giancola, by the way. And the two together took over. I just found out today, I didn't even realize it, the 20th anniversary of the redevelopment of the Howe Center. Now that you've seen the video, you kind of get a real appreciation for just where this property was prior to the Giancolas taking it over and doing the city a huge favor and now turning it into a mecca of employment of about 300 or plus people. So Joe, the folks have now seen the video and it's amazing. You must be exhausted.
Well, I hope they realize that I had black hair. I have gray hair now. That was black hair. Hair was a little darker.
That was on the video.
On the video, that's correct. That's correct. And
But you had challenges along the way, and this is part of what you have in the book is how you sort of overcame those challenges. And so if other communities face those same challenges, you're kind of giving them some helpful
well, yeah, that's
hints.
right. That's correct. The book starts in Brandon in the 1850s and 60s when house scale was developed there because the iron ore and the waterfalls on the Neshobe River. And at that time, they had a couple of fires. Brandon prospered. It did very well. Then they needed rail transportation was a big issue, so Burlington and Pittsfield, Mass. and places were trying to get it. And the book talks about all the politics and news articles of everybody trying to get this company to come to Rutland or Burlington, go someplace else,
Right.
and Brandon trying to keep it. It's on the Rutland Herald and other newspapers, articles are in there. And then moving it to Rutland, the Irish were camped out on this property, and they had to move the shantytown Irish, they said, off the property.
I see.
And build the new buildings, and prosperity came after all the marble, all what they were built, the fireproof construction in the 1870s when they did this.
Okay.
And then it turns around, and war came along, and they made war materials for war. And then prosperity again, then union, all the different unions came in. Then it got to outside ownership, and then strikes came in. All the strikes, they're all in there. The politics of the strikes and all the local people in there. The board of aldermen, the mayors, everybody. The outside ownership came along, and all that. And people were trying to save it. The local businessmen trying to save it. Then the slow decline. The city taking it over. The option the city took, and all the controversy.
Right.
We came along and purchased it.
I remember that part.
You remember you were part of that part, right?
Yeah, it was
and the city
hard.
came along to do some of the help with, took options on the property, no takers, and then that's when the mayor's race went along. Jeff Winberg was running for mayor. They were talking about this place. Barbara and I snuck in and put a deposit down with Aerojet. We called them up, and they took our offer.
That's great.
And we didn't tell anybody for too much. We didn't want it part of the politics. And finally, we told Jeff what happened, and it came out. We had a big opening at the South Station restaurant, told the whole community what was going on. And then I began July of 1989, which was prior to the 87, the 2 years we cleaned up hazardous waste for 2 years.
Wow.
Chemicals, dumped here, gasoline, bunker 6, asbestos, you name it was here. We cleaned it all up. And July of 89, we started construction. And then 5 years into it, Act 250 came along, tried to shut us down.
Wow.
2 years and 22 trials and hearings. And so that's in the book, How to Avoid Act 250, what the pitfalls are, what people can do in the community, how to deal with your bankers, and how to get money, how to stay away from why grants are a pitfall. If you go to grant, there's restrictions that come with it,
Right.
and right to where it is today. And basically, and people say, how'd you get the vision to do it? To me, it was all the buildings were in one spot. I didn't have to go different streets of the city to renovate. They're all in one location, and I
That's
could
a
do
good
one
point.
at a time.
Yeah.
And that's how I attacked it.
Well, a couple of things I want to point out too. Of course, you've built this on a rail siding, and I
correct.
know that at least one of the businesses takes great advantage of the actual being on, in a rail yard, which can be a great asset to a property in some respects. I know you have your other challenges on the other side.
So
of
we have
people getting in and out.
there's advantages and disadvantages with the rail.
You also, though, have taken a great step recently, and you actually have started to develop residential down here.
That's right. We have 6 or 7 residential apartments up over the second floors and third floors of the buildings.
And that's very forward-thinking. I mean, there's a lot of downtowns that are trying to do that.
Well, I've always done it since I've been in business. All the places, my downtown properties I have second and third floor apartments.
Okay.
I've always kept the mixed residential along with the commercial. They sort of go together because the people who live in them will spend money. If we can fill the whole downtown with residential, we could have a viable downtown. New York City, vertically, everything comes from the top down.
Yeah,
They live up above it and shop down below. That's why every block you have a Chinese restaurant.
Okay,
There's enough people in one block area to support
Keep
each
one
one.
supported, yeah.
And that's what we.
And then there's even current challenges. Recently in the legislature, which has not taken hold, by the way, luckily, but it would challenge this property, a riparian buffer bill, with Moon Brook running through the property. So there's even current challenges for you in this.
Well, we have a serious challenge. We cannot finish the vacant land to finish development because Moon Brook is called impaired waters. We cannot dump any stormwater into that brook.
Oh, I forgot about that.
So the riparian buffer rights and that there alone, and the Act 250 conditions restrict us from developing the rest of our property here. The mayor is working on trying to get that solved, but
and then there's even the landlocked portion of the property from the actual rail yard.
the rail yard, and the proposed new rail yard wants to cut us in half, and run through the middle of us and take out the businesses, even though we have rail here now that supports the cracker company,
So I don't want to suggest that the property is done. You've celebrated your 20th anniversary now, which I just learned today. I didn't realize. However, it's an ongoing process for you, isn't it, Joe?
Well, it's continually ongoing. We just brought a new company from Woodstock called Woodstock Cookie Company. Just came here. They make cookies and distribute them all over. They make them right here at Howe Center now. We make crackers here, and you know that they bring a tank load of rail car of flour a week here.
200,000 pounds, I understand.
Every week it comes in, and every 2 weeks a tractor trailer load of oil, canola oil.
Okay.
and they produce 1,200 or 1,400 pounds of crackers an hour.
Yeah,
and they run 5 days a week, 24 hours a day here.
For things that are going to be
This
real
is in
proud of.
Rutland. This company came here, was just making bags of flour. Make flour by a bag at a time to make crackers. Now it's all automated.
And people can appreciate the functioning facility here now after just seeing that DVD excerpt that we just aired in this program today, to see where it came from, because the pictures in there really were surprising. I'd forgotten until I saw those. Now, before we get run out of time, we have a little time left, but I just want to also recognize you and your family, because obviously you're a well-known family in the area, and you yourself have been the president of the Chamber of Commerce at one point.
Yes.
You've also been Business Person of the Year.
Right.
And then later, 30 years later, I think you pointed out to me, and on my watch, we were able to recognize you and Barbara as our Business People of the Year.
That's right.
Because
we
of
come
all
as
the
a
things.
pair. Barbara and I come as a pair. We come as a team.
And I know how that started, because if I have it right, you were a ski instructor at Pico.
That's
and
correct.
Barb was sort of a ski bunny.
She took lessons. Yeah, she took lessons.
Yeah, and you met there and been together ever since.
If she didn't take lessons, I would never met her.
And then, of course, Peter Giancola is working with you and in the company, and is also a very well-known musician.
He plays a mean saxophone.
He sure does.
He's a pretty good engineer, too.
And he's quite an entertainer, too. And I mean, while he's playing the music, and I know this is an aside from what he does during the day, but he's very entertaining when he's performing as well. So I love to watch him, and he's in several bands, and I usually catch all of them. And then, of course, David Giancola, who is such a well-known producer now.
But he's also in the real estate business and construction. He's in our family company now. He's in there. He got him working overtime now. He's helping us. We need his help. We brought him in. We said, you got to start making movies full time, movies part time, and help us the rest of the time.
There you go. Yeah. Well, and I know that I'd also point out you're still active with the Chamber of Commerce. You are the chair of the Rutland Region Chamber of Commerce Transportation Committee currently, and you've been
the
able
airport.
to,
And don't forget my airport.
which includes the airport.
That's right.
Yeah, all inclusive. And of course, we've made great strides with the airport, and you are a pilot yourself, which makes you vested in what we're trying to accomplish here with our airport. And it is getting to be, it is the second busiest airport now in the state of Vermont outside of Burlington.
It's our future is going to be the air. The future will bring the air and the rail will bring people here. We're not going to see big highways, but we'll see better rail. We'll see better air transportation. We'll bring more people here, and if the chief executives can get here to manage the plants from wherever they come from, easy access to get here, they will build their plants here, and we'll create more jobs here.
Right.
And the future is the air, especially.
Yeah. And so, it's kind of interesting, because you have been, really in the thick of things, not only with your own investment, but volunteering your time to make sure that the infrastructure is in place for others to invest and for this community to develop successfully. I agree with you that we're not going to see new highways, so air and rail are important components of the overall transportation puzzle, I call it.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that's going up at the airport right now, the MELS are.
The MELS are the new landing light system.
Right, and that's done, and we'll be celebrating that soon.
And that makes more planes come in easier, quicker, and lowers the depth type that they can come in at, lower the minimums.
And I learned all this from you and Dave Carmen, by the way, the airport manager.
That's right.
I'm a neophyte otherwise. And then, of course, you helped us choose our airline for the area, which is doing well. And also, the next thing that we're embarking on, with the help of Congressman Welch, is the instrument landing system, the ILS.
Oh, yeah. Peter Welch is a great supporter. He's looking for a ride in my airplane.
There you go. Yeah, and we'd take him up anytime. And of course, Patrick Leahy and Bernie Sanders have both been supporters of our airport, strong supporters. And previously, of course, Jim Jeffords.
Oh, Jim used to fly with me. He used to fly with me a lot. So,
okay, yeah, that's fantastic.
Right.
Now, I also want to mention, because there's just so much to talk about in so little time, but also Barbara has been very active. She was very instrumental in getting the Paramount open.
That's correct.
And that was, and now what a gem in our downtown.
Well, we owned it. We owned it originally together. way back.
Okay.
And then we gave it to the nonprofit group, but they faltered, and she got on the board with that second group, and
Okay.
and her and Jim Jeffords and Liz Jeffords got that money from Senator Jeffords. They convinced Jim that he should support them, and once they did that,
That
took
was
it
it.
off. Yeah.
I totally agree with you, Joe. I knew myself, just from being around here long enough, that when that funding came through, the rest of it was finally going to happen. I said it the day it happened. I said, this is it. This is turning the corner. The other thing that I've been supportive of was our parking deck, a multimodal transit center.
That's right.
You know, but I knew that Paramount and the transit center and downtown would all go together nicely. And we use that every time we go to a show at the Paramount or something.
Oh,
on
it's a
Center
great place
Street.
to park.
You know, in the wintertime,
Oh, that's right.
gee, you know, you don't have to scrape your car. It's nice and dry and comfortable when you get back. It's well lit there, and it's so easily accessible through the alleys that go out into Center Street. So all these things really have come together. And by the way, Barb is a very popular member of our Rutland City Rotary Club.
I know she's a Rotarian. I'm in the Kiwanis Club. She's a Rotarian.
that's
So
right.
we have conflicts back and forth, but we
Yeah.
have friendly conflicts. But you know, our downtown is a great place. I mean, it'll come back. Historically, it's one of the nicest downtowns in the country. We got a little pain, but you have a little pain. No pain, no gain, they say. So, and a few empty stores, but not. You only see the bad ones. You don't see all the good stores that are downtown. And so we have a great downtown. It'll come back. People in this area are pretty innovative and pretty resourceful. You watch.
Right.
It'll be booming again. Takes a little timer, but it's a positive place to live, and I think it'll be back. I still feel confident it'll be back.
Now, obviously, you know, it's closing a chapter, to use a pun, creating the how-to book. But as you look back at the last 20 years of developing the Howe Center, and what really, in my opinion, you know, as a community member, what a tremendous success it is today. Obviously, I didn't have to put in the blood, sweat, and tears that you and your family did. But are you glad that you took this challenge on 20 years ago, Joe?
Oh yeah, it's kind of my baby now. I nurture it. I'm always here 6 and 7 days a week. I'm 2 o'clock in the morning. If the sprinkler goes off, everywhere I go, I have to drive through it, no matter where I'm coming from. If I come back from the airport, I drive through Howe Center to check on it. You know,
Yeah.
if I'm coming back from Kessel, I come via Route 7 and Route 4. You know, and, and
yeah.
to check on it. And
You do, yeah.
no, it's my baby. I enjoy doing. I still work. It's a constant work in motion. It never stops. We're renovating buildings now. We're painting. We got 8 or 10 people working here now, just
You do.
painting, fixing, repairing.
I can only imagine the upkeep.
It's a constant. Rotten wood. The roofs I put on 20 years ago are being replaced now.
I see.
There's 20 acres of slate roof, just of slate.
Wow.
Just slate that we. There's been 4 people working on slate for the last 2 months, just patching slate, not new, just patching it, repairing it.
Wow. Yeah.
It's
And
a-
I guess, do you know in the ballpark how many people were working in the heyday when a Howe Center was?
They
supposed
ran
to-
about,
or Howe scale, I should say.
I'd say 800 to 1,000 people.
They had that many. Okay.
When they were really booming during the war. During the war was when they really were booming. They had a couple of fires in the book, a couple of fires. But the book talks about all that stuff, people, how they were working then, all unions, all the conflicts and all the politics. And it's interesting enough, some of the same scenarios that are going on right now
Really?
were done 100 years ago and 50 years ago. You can almost, different name, different players, but similar complaints and similar naysayers, you know.
Yeah.
But it turned out the people were positive, turned it around. I think we'll do the same thing. Our town is great.
Yeah. Now, there is a tremendous historic element here, and Don Wickman, you mentioned, had been he's a local historian,
Right.
of course, that works for the Downtown Rutland Partnership. Very nice guy, and he really
Very
knows
talented,
his
very
business.
talented, yes.
Yeah. So he was obviously helped you do the research and the history of this property. and-
Peter Campbell Cobb, Historical Pages, helped me put it together. You know,
Okay.
he's the other fellow helped me with it. And,
Yeah.
and then Peter and David did the proofreading. They did all. My daughter-in-law, they're all
Yeah.
in there because I didn't do it alone. I was just got the idea and I funded it. And
Well, the idea of having the DVD is neat because I'm a visual person too, and I've forgotten all those pictures, and of course even seeing the young pictures of Jeff Wenberg when he was mayor. And
that's
they
right.
were
Well,
fun.
that was my son
Yeah.
David. That's my son David's doing.
That's
you
what
know?
I was going to ask.
And,
Yeah, David did the work on that.
And Alex Dunn was who God rest, who was
Yes.
passed. That's his voice.
I recognize
He was a radio.
that.
He was a radio announcer that developed the galloping garbage,
Oh, yes.
garbologist.
Yes, that's right.
Many years ago.
Yeah, I remember
And
Alex Dunn very
he
well.
was a great radio personality. Yes.
Yeah, and I thought I recognized his voice on the DVD. So
David tried to change it, but he couldn't find a better voice than that. So
Alex was good.
He was
Yeah.
great.
That's fantastic. So that lends a nice historic
Right.
element too, and one that people locally will
Right.
appreciate very
Right.
much. Well, and one other thing I wanted to mention, of course, you developed here in conjunction with Rutland Region Community Television, more affectionately known locally as PEGTV, Public Education and
Yeah.
Government Television. And locally, people watch it on channels 15, 20, and 21. This is a tremendous studio, one of the best in the state, if not the best in the state, located in the Howe Center, which I think we can all be very proud of as a community facility.
Well, my staff and my office people did a lot of designing the work. We had the site, and it took some negotiations to convince them that this was the place to be. And finally, once we made the numbers work for them, we invested jointly together with the PEGTV group and our board. We worked fine. And plus, we have gas stations here. We've got car washes here. Everything's here. You name this. Everything's here. Basically, you go to school here. You used to have a grocery store here. Anywhere you want. Pretty much anything here. Get your dog daycare here if you want, or regular daycare. You got two choices.
Well, and we do live election night coverage here at PEGTV,
that's right.
and we have a lot of the politicians stop in because they want to find out whether they won or not.
That's right.
So rather than going to their town offices, guess where they're showing up? They come to PEGTV.
PEGTV, that's the place to be.
Yeah, we
right?
always have that kind of
That's
novel,
right. That's right.
But you've really put it on the map. It's something that Rutland can be very proud of, Joe. I personally want to thank you and your family for the investment that you've made here. It hasn't gone unnoticed.
Well, I have fun doing it. It's a great fun. I enjoy doing this kind of thing. It's what I do best: fix places, buy junk, make it look and turn it into something nice.
That's true.
50 years this year is my 50th anniversary of doing it.
Is that right?
50 years in business, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Doesn't seem possible that 50 years has gone by since I bought my first house, which I still own, by the way.
That's fantastic.
Never sold much of them.
That's unbelievable. But I do believe it with you.
Yeah.
So, well, I want to thank you very much for coming on Chamber Focus. This has been a great half hour, and again, thank you for your time and investment in this tremendous facility and all the volunteer work and support you and your family provide the community, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on Chamber Focus.
My pleasure.
And I want to thank all of you for tuning in and watching Chamber Focus today. This has been a very special edition with the assistance of a very famous producer, David Giancola. Of course, our technical director for the program coordinator for Channel 15, Tom Leopold, and our executive director, Mike Valentine. For all of us at PEGTV and Chamber Focus, I'd like to thank the Giancola family and thank all of you for watching PEGTV today. Hope you enjoyed this special edition. And of course, I would always want to encourage you to stay tuned, though, because what I call the award-winning program, they're winners of the Romeo Award here at PEGTV. It's called Historically Speaking, of course, and that'll be coming right up next.